Welcome to More Than Mindset, the only podcast that bridges the gap between spirituality and success. Go beyond the mind with clarity and confidence coach Kim Guillory and learn how to integrate your passion to serve with your skills and experience to create a business you love. Let's get started.
Hello, and welcome back to the show. My name is Kim, and I am your host. Today, I am interviewing Melanie. She is one of my clients. She's been working with me we're right at a year, huh? Almost to the day.
Exactly a year, yes.
Exactly a year. Is that crazy?
Yes, it is.
We couldn't
So much
make
has changed. So much has changed.
So we just want to talk about what the experience has been. And Melly has literally 10 extra business income, kind of, I won't say accidentally because it's not accidental, but there was a point where you weren't even envisioning of right at this point, because this was
Correct.
not your goal. It's just you kept with the process.
Yes. I mean, I knew I wanted to rebrand and level up my business, but I didn't know what that was going to look like. But I knew I needed to make some changes. And again, didn't know what that was going to look like. And so I knew I needed guidance. I needed help to show me what that could be or look like. So, that's where you came into play.
Yeah. So we'll just kind of give a little intro of how this all came about. So Melanie was working with Monique, who is one of my mind body coaches. So you guys were working personal. I think you and Graham were both working with Monique on a personal level, right? And she said, you need to meet my business coach.
Yeah, well, it first started with me, and then as last year it started to develop, then Graham came into that as well. Yes. Yeah.
So Melanie has a med spa in Colorado, Glenwood. You're in Glenwood
Lemon
Springs.
Springs. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And whenever she first came in, this was the part that blew my mind. It was kind of after the fact. I was like, hey, what was your total income last year? And you're like, I'm not sure. And you went look it up, and it was like 48 or 49,000.
Round it out to 50,000. Yeah, exactly. Not much.
And whenever she first came in, she's like, I need to make 10 or 12,000. It was like you were still kind of flopping between the two. Like, I need to make this. I just bought new machines. I just made a big investment. And you were kind of freaking out because you were debating on spending the money on someone to run your social media or getting business coaching.
Yeah, I had made some changes with marketing and how that looked. I was doing radio for forever. I was doing radio for the past 11 years. And this device where I purchased from this company, their rep was like, you need to do something else. Like you got to change your marketing because you're not getting anything back. And so with that being said, I hired somebody to do some of my marketing, right? Emails, things like that. And so that created a change. Like she started writing emails to all my clients and also doing text. And what it did is it created the change of those people started to reach out and actually book appointments with me that I hadn't seen in years or lost in touch with. And that was just like the beginning to what I've been able to create up until now. So, but you're right. It was like 2 weeks left of the month. I'd signed up with you. I had a goal. There's 2 weeks left. And in those 2 weeks, my goal was 10 and I went over that. I made 12,000 and it was just like, oh my God, did I just do that? Like, how did that happen? And so I remember you saying that when you do this, you have to hold it for 3 months. It's got to be consistent for 3 months. So for 3 months, this is your goal. And if you can do that, it's gonna stick. Like you have a better chance of it sticking, right? And it was one of those like, oh my God, okay, I got to do it again. You start all over again. Here comes March, right? That was in January. And then March, it was like 25,000 or something like that. It was crazy. It was like, wow, I just doubled, what I had made or what my goal was. Right.
Yeah.
And so from there, it kind of just continued it continued on until where I'm at now. But it was literally like, I don't know, how am I going to do that? What's going to happen? Like, it's
I
scary.
remember,
It's
I
really
remember you
scary.
were like 150,000. I'm like, oh no, we're going for 250. Like,
Yeah. So
no
my
way. You
goal
were
with
like,
you was 250. You were like, your goal for the year is 250 because look, this is how it's going to work. You're going to need a scale. You're going to need to hire somebody, but you can't hire somebody until it's 250,000. You have to make that. Then you're going to bring somebody on, or you're going to be just so busy that you're going to bring somebody on part of that. But for the numbers to work and for you to bring somebody on, this is your goal. So I feel like the goals that we set, it was like, I had that goal, but I wanted to make more, right? So like I said, in January it was like 10 and I made like that 12,000. And then like in February it was like 25,000 I made. And I was like, "Oh my God, how did I do that? Like that's crazy." You know, my goal was I need to make 10, but if I could make 20, I'd be really happy. So, and since then it just it kind of went up. The third month it was like 37,000 and it was just like, "What? That's crazy." So then you were like, "Okay, removing your marker."
there are two things that you mentioned that, because for our audience, we throw out these big numbers. But then kind of what happened with you happens. It's kind of like, wait, what? It's like you can't even receive it yet. That's why I like the 90 days. So let's solidify, because we want to create a sustainable, predictable business. Like we want to be able to turn it off and turn it on. We want to be in control instead of waiting for something around us to decide. And so if we can stabilize financially, we can also stabilize our nervous system and our belief system. And so when we go to, it's like someone winning the lottery, but then they don't have like a system or an understanding like what to do with that kind of money. It's about havingness. It's the ability to have, like to have and to hold, not just like make and throw around. And that's the next thing. Those are all phases that we go through. But the very first thing is increase revenue. Nothing else matters. So for all of you who are listening, don't try to perfect, don't try to get systems in place. We didn't do any of that. It's like, we just have to get people to know who you are, where they can find you, what you do, to where they can feel confident and they trust you. Right. So that was the start point. But something you said, and I know you'll mention several times because we talk about it so often. And it's like, damn, I got to do it again. Because at the end of every month, you were surpassing until we got like literally now you have a month that you made what you made last year. So the last couple of months, it was like a higher 30, then you went to 40, then you went to the 49,000. And that's like gulp. But don't you
Yeah.
think it's the weirdest like phenomenon that you almost dread the end of the month? Because like, hell,
Yeah.
can I do it again?
It's like you're like, "Oh my God, I did that. Holy, how did I do that?" Right? You're like in disbelief. It's hard to see that number. And then you're excited, right? Because then you're kind of like, "Oh my God," like magic, like, "Oh my God, how did I make that happen?" And then you're like, "Oh my God, I made that happen. That's amazing." And then you're like, "Oh no, it's gonna get wiped clean again." And then here comes the next month. I gotta do it all again. And you question yourself, like, how long can I sustain that, right? Is this sustainable? Can I continue to create this? And will it plateau, or will I be able to take that goal and like I did before and increase it, right? Because there was a time where I literally was like, how can I make, I could not even think how I could make 40 to 50,000. Like that was just not even in my brain. It was, right? It was like, I just need to make 10,000. And now we're at the end of the year. The end of the year just finished, right? That was my end of the year. And it was like, whoa, I went from like, I only need to make 10,000. And then you were like, well, in the next 3 months for this end third quarter, you need to make 40 to 50. And I was like, I don't even know how am I going to do that? And I did it. Like I did it twice and I over exceeded it again. So now I'm excited, but I'm also still like, can I do it? And now my markers moved. So I was like, oh boy. But I've always been like, I want more. So if I have a goal, my goal is always like, it's here, right? But I'm always looking like here.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like, so I'm like, okay, I can do this. I'm not going to give up. But there are times where I feel like, why am I doing this? Can I do this? Like, what? I mean, these are the things that come into your mind. And then I have to be like, no, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give up. It's not the end of the month. What else can I create? What else is possible? And every time I do that, it shows up. It literally has been showing up.
I'm curious about, so there's been a couple of months where, and like having a mentor, I'll just kind of come into that, or someone
Yeah.
checking with your numbers and looking in. Don't you find it's interesting how when your numbers are not there, you're like kind of put off that and not really wanting to face it. But then as soon as you book that
Yeah.
appointment, it puts you back into momentum.
It
It's like these
does.
are all money phenomenons. Like it's like demystifying our understanding of that
Absolutely.
currency and its availability. And we talked about this in December when you were like, oh man. It was like, and then you were like, I got my appointment on the book to meet with you. And then I just did it. So
Yeah.
what do you think has been the benefit of having someone, like I kind of think of a coach or mentor as having a 360 view that's just kind of hovering on top of the
It's
whole.
really interesting not ever having a mentor, right? Or not even thinking that was even possible, right? Because I even last year when I signed up, I didn't know what it was going to look like. I had no idea, never done it before, very new. I just knew what I needed to do, right? I knew what I needed to create. I needed to do something different than I was doing all these other years. And having you like, it's that accountability, like I'm being held accountable. And not just from myself, but like from you too. And I don't want to like, I don't know, I don't want to fail. I can't, right? I'm like, it's almost like survival level. Like I have to do this. I cannot give up. I have to figure out a way to stay open to allow these things to come in so that I can create them, right? And you do question, like I said, you do question yourself, but like having you and Monique, it helps me to bring it back like, okay, like what have you been learning? What have we been doing? What have we been going through? Like, and so literally like on these last 2 months, I have to hone in on that. Like, okay, I know I can do this. Like I know that it's possible. Like I've been doing this and you guys have been coaching me through this. And it does, like it shows up and it's showing up at crazy times. Like last month, it showed up in like literally in 3 days, I hit my goal. And this time I started off a little slow, but by that second, third week, I was like, momentum was there. I sold 26,000 in a week. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing, right? That goal seems close. And then it slowed down again because it was like, oh man, it's Christmas week. Everybody's shopping. Everybody's got stuff going on. And I was like, no, I got to remember, like, what did Kim say? Like, you never know. So I had to go back into that. It's not over until it's over. It's not the end of the month. And literally, what happened? The end of the month came and I sold, I made, I like, I made my 40 and I was like, oh my God, but there was still time left, right? And on literally like it was what, Friday, the 31st, or no, wait, not Friday, but Friday was what?
I think it was Christmas Day we talked, and you
So
must have done it
Friday was the 29th. And that was like, yeah. So Friday the 29th, I'm like, okay, I don't have anybody. Like I have 2 consultations left and that's it. It's the end of the year, right? That's all. That's it. And so you were like, don't think about it. I was like, you're right. You're right. It's not the end, right? So two consultations left there at the end of the day. My day wasn't going well the beginning of the day. It was really wonky. And then my 2 consultations came in. One was a client that I currently had gotten the beginning of the year. So she was coming in and she was wanting to buy a gift certificate for 300 and then I was going to match her 300. So essentially she was got $600 she's wanting to use. And she bought a package. And then another client I'd never met, she was from a lead from my marketing. She came in and she bought a package. And it was like 8,500 right there, 85,000 or 8,500, I'm sorry. And I was like, oh my gosh, that just took me closer to that $50,000 goal that I was really trying to aim. And then Saturday came And I normally don't work Saturdays, but because they bought all these packages, I'm like, come in, I'm going to work on you. Let's get you started now. So I ended up having a full day on Saturday. And then my neighbor, we were going to go to the hot springs after my last treatment or last client. She came in and she wanted a facial. So I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll do a hydro facial on her." She ended up spending $300 that day, that on top of that, right? So it was like, you never know. And
Never
that
know.
was, you
And
never know.
that's
So,
probably been the biggest change for you, is that it's kind of like your mind likes to start putting these stop points. And I'm like, wait a minute, we're talking on Christmas Day. I'm still buying and shopping. I just bought something. Hold
yeah.
on. Could you just leave the door open? Just leave
Yeah.
the door open and see what happens.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that
yes,
ended up
that's right.
being
That's right.
another 10,000, over $10,000. Like, it's
Right. So
crazy.
Christmas Day, we were working, or I was with you. And then I actually had a client that day. So I actually worked as well, like on somebody. But you're right. The next day, a client from prior to, she spent 13,000 on a package. And it was just like, wait, what? I
Let's
mean,
talk about that too, because that's one of the things that changed. So this is for massage therapists, estheticians, just the service-based businesses. That was one of the big changes for you, is doing these
oh my
one-off
gosh.
sessions. And it was like, wait a minute, hold on. This is the first thing that needs to change. Was that scary to move from
Yeah.
one time?
Yeah, or really what it was is I was selling packages, but my packages were like $1,400, right? That's what I sold them at. And when I went into the year, I had saw somebody else prior to you that I got training, that I took a class from, and he literally was like, you got to change your prices. Like, you got to raise your prices. You're not going to be able to get anywhere if you don't. And for me, then I was like, I couldn't wrap my head around doing that. I was charging like $145 a treatment on my body contouring. So they would buy the package and it was literally $1,400 for the package. And he's like, you got to raise your prices. Like this, it's not work. It's just, this is what you got to do. And I kept thinking, how am I going to do that? How are people going to pay that much money? Like, who's going to pay that much money? Right. And you said the same thing. When we came in, you were like, you got to figure this out, because you got these machines and this is where we're going to set your goals on pricing, on like what you're going to make a month. Right. And so it took a minute and I had to really change my mindset and like not worry about who's coming in and how much money they have. And are they really going to spend this money? It literally is, they have a problem. I have these things that I can help solve them. And I have to allow them to choose
Right.
what they can and cannot afford. But yeah, that was hard.
So when we're doing sales and marketing and pricing and like all of the business strategy stuff, two things come up. One is the mind is so attached to who it served and the stories it's heard and believes that that is true because you have a match to it. The second thing is you invest in higher quality. And so you up leveled as a business owner and as an individual. And that within itself is what up levels, but you're still in the same environment. And whenever you first went up on your packages, someone showed up and challenged that for you. I remember that call. It was very early on in the year. And you were like just kind of trying to believe it, and they validated no one was going to pay it. Good luck with that. What
Oh
was it?
yeah. Yeah. It was one of my clients and somebody I knew. Yep. She was asking how much the prices were. And she was just like, no one's going to pay that. Good luck. I don't know who you think you're selling to in this valley, but you're not going to get it. And I was really mad about it. I was really offended because I was like, wow, she was very dismissive. Like, there's no way, right? And I was already in that, like, can I really do this? I mean, my word of the year last year was confidence. When you level up, it knocked everything I thought I knew completely down. I was starting completely, like, from start again, like all the things I had done 10 years ago. It was like a whole nother, like, oh my God, like, how did that happen? Like, I thought I knew what I knew, but I really didn't. And so the confidence thing was really that was really a challenge. And her saying that really was like, I don't know, can I do that? Can I do it? But as I started doing it, it changed. And I
Yeah.
realized that it wasn't me, it was her. She couldn't afford that. She was making me feel guilty about that and bad and, "Oh, don't know, can I do it?" And she made me question myself, but really it was her stuff that she was hung up on. So once I realized that and you helped me realize that, it was just like it flipped the switch.
And here's the thing, if we have some degree of agreeing with that, which you still had a little bit of
Absolutely.
residue,
Absolutely.
this is what they do. They just show it to you. So if anyone's barking at your prices, guys, all of you who's listening to this, it is only because there is a degree of it, or you're able to just brush it off, because now you just brush that off. But she for
Yeah,
sure played a part in challenging you. And we all get this. We get it from our
absolutely.
family. We get it from our friends, our environment, from the TV who's running all these deals and specials, right? And it's like we are just, it's like gravity. We're always being pulled back into disbelief constantly. If you
Absolutely.
didn't get daily support, and I don't mean daily like we're on the phone daily, Melanie's not
No,
like that.
yes.
But if you didn't know in the back, like remember some of the things, because you bring those up and you're just like, nope, this is what they said. Nope, this is what we're going to do. Nope, this is, and you stay in the game. But even for your husband at the beginning, because when did he came to the New Orleans event or Austin?
It was the Austin
Austin
event.
event. So it
Yes.
was the middle of the year. I
Yes.
remember you were
The
coming and
belief
you were
boot
like,
camp. It
you're,
was the belief
yeah,
boot.
the belief boot camp. And he's
Yes.
like, what was it? Let me go and see if this is legal. I'm going to check on you. Or how
I
do I
think he
believe
was
like
more
this?
like, wow, her numbers are changing. Something's happening. Like, this is a complete change from what she was doing before. Like, what's happening? Who's this person she's talking to, right? Who's her mentor and how is she doing it, right? Disbelief. And he was curious, like, what is she doing that's changed, that's created this massive change of what she was doing before, you know? Because the things that you were telling me, I literally was just applying them and it was creating change. So I was taking the action. Like when Monique suggested, like you were her mentor and that you were doing business, and because I wanted to level up my business, I wanted to change that. She suggested you would be perfect because that's your thing. You do business like really well. You've had a very successful business with your spa that you had. And so the more I thought, I was like, well, who better to connect with than somebody who did or is doing what I've done and has taken her business to that level of where I wanted to go. And I remember you just saying, like, these are the things that you're going to have to do. You're going to have to create change. You're going to have to take action. And so everything you've asked me to do, I just literally applied it. And I was like, oh my God, that did work. Oh my God, like, this is amazing. And it literally has just created massive change, even with Graham, like him wanting to come and see who's this person that's creating this change with my wife's business. And so, yeah, he showed up and he was still in disbelief. He was hearing it, but he was still like, I don't get it. Right.
Yeah,
He
it's because it's
wasn't,
not tactical. It's not practical. It doesn't make
it
sense because
wasn't practical.
belief can't be seen, but it can be felt.
Yes. And
And
just like
you,
this, like, how am I gonna make this number? I have like 3 days left and it's the slowest month. Like everybody kept saying, it's so slow. It's November. Don't worry, your numbers are not gonna be the same. Like literally getting hit again, right? Like people telling you again, there's no way you can do this. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. Oh my God, how am I gonna do this? Like I gotta, and then I was like, I'm gonna do this. I have to do this. And literally, I changed my mindset, right? Like you've been teaching, and Monique has been helping me with and reminding me. And I'm like, you're right. Like, I know I can create this. I gotta create this. And it would just show up, literally would show up. It just like magic.
well, the thing is, this will never happen. And when we're in that mode, we close the doors. We energetically close the
Correct.
doors. And
Correct.
that was the thing. I was like, Melanie's, and because we talked probably this last 10 days more than
Yes,
the whole year.
exactly.
And because she really is the best client that like she takes the idea, implements, executes, and doesn't stop until it's done. I'm so pleased with this entire year of
Well,
how
thank
you,
you. I'm even still fascinated by it all. I'm still like, wow, I am a creator. I can I can do this. Like I've set these goals and I've over exceeded them because I've been visualizing that. Like, no, I want to get that $50,000 mark. And I'm gonna achieve it. I'm gonna get there.
yeah, that's
But
done.
I want it's, you know, but I have over exceeded 250,000. Like that was my goal, Kim. And now what am I at?
You're over 375. Like,
I
and
know.
guys, it's really weird when you're sitting in the position because the numbers don't make sense because it's not the norm, right? I remember hitting the 480,000. And when I was turning my numbers in, I swear the whole conversation for months was like 250. Like it's like it wouldn't register in my brain. I couldn't make it make sense
Right.
because I was
Right.
so used to the other. And then when we had the increase, I, I don't know,
No.
and then numbers start sounding stupid. All of a sudden you look like a dumb person because you're asking questions and people, I remember like my grandson being with me at the real estate summit and he was like, y'all don't know numbers? And I'm like, actually, no, once you're tapped into that currency, you just add zeros. It's the craziest thing. It makes
Yeah.
me like, I just tell people ahead of time, like, listen, I'm not dumb. And I know it's just you almost become disengaged with the drama of money.
Yeah.
And you tap into this stream of currency of aligned action in belief. That's it.
That's
But
it.
man, you got to turn the mind off and know that all your neighbors,
Yeah.
all your friends, everyone around you is saying the opposite. Because I am a big spender and I make a lot of money in December. Like it's very often my biggest month, and it's very often the month I spend the most money. And it's been like that since I started my business. And I always tell my clients, people with money are spending money right now. It's the end of the year. We're looking at it. We're really looking at who am I going to give this to right now? And that's very hard to believe when you have been living in an environment where people think it's more expensive in December and that you have to save and like everyone shuts down and you won't make any sales. That is why you're not making sales. And when I could see you slipping into that, and I was like, why don't you just keep the doors open? And you're like, oh,
That struggle too with me too. It's like, I know that too. So it's like, that's the battle I have with my mind is like, nope, nope, nope. Can't go there. You got to get back, right? Listening to whatever I need to listen to get me into that mindset, which I told you I did one time. I was listening to kind of like a meditation kind of a thing. And it was helping me with money, like to get me out of that. And I literally the next day, I'm not kidding. The next day, that money came. Like it showed up and it put me over to where I needed to be. And I was like, and I remember calling you, telling you like, oh my God, you're not gonna believe I was listening to so and this is what happened.
it's the subconscious is being programmed all the time. You
Mhm.
just have to decide who's going to program it. What
Yeah.
are you going to listen to keep you in momentum? And that's our job, right?
Yeah.
It's like we know about personal hygiene, like physical hygiene.
Yeah.
But I believe in spiritual and emotional and mental
Yes.
hygiene. I am like, and that is waking up before the sun and bringing myself into belief every single day. There's no Saturday, Sunday off. There's no New Year's Day off. Or you know that because you were on a call with me this morning. It's New Year's Day. I'm there all the time. And that's because why would I practice not being me? That is who I am now. It's not an on or off schedule. It's an embodiment of that, like the higher version
Yeah.
of yourself. And when we still have the mentality that it's, oh, I do this 5 days a week, or, oh, I do this, I do it during the holidays or a 30-day when the year starts. No, it's all the time. I'm disappointed because people don't want to work on the weekend. I'm like, guys, you're missing out. It's so good. Like I stay
Yeah.
plugged in and it shows up, the results show up. So when you unplug, you get further away from it. And then you got to go, like it's harder to get
It's
back in
true.
it.
It is. It interrupts the flow, right? Because you're in the flow, you're going, you're buzzing. Like Saturday, I was working. I mean, from the time I came in like 10 o'clock in the morning to like 5 o'clock that afternoon. It was only supposed to be a short day, but I mean, it was one right after the other. And we were doing all these things, and I was like I was like in it, right?
Like, own a
And
genius.
it was
Like,
amazing, and it was different, and it felt good. It was like, I know, like, again, I don't normally work Saturdays, but it was actually really good. It was a good day. I got a lot done. I was helping people, right? I made money. It
yeah.
was great.
It's such a mindset shift.
It is.
So I
It is.
wish I would have a list of questions to ask you. I don't. I figured we would just chat this out and kind of talk about like the disbelief still shows up. The doubts still
Yes.
show up. It is a
Yeah.
daily habit of getting back in belief. And that's probably the thing that I've noticed with you all year long is that when I don't hear from you, I can feel you going further. I was like, oh, she's freaking out. Like the numbers are not there. And so it's just a little checking in, and it just plugs you back in. And I kind of feel the same way, Melanie. Like if there's no one else cares, and I'm just in the boat by myself, just kind of, in the little kayak looking around. But when I know someone's waiting, like I'm gonna get there. Like or like when I travel and I'm by myself and I'm like, man, it's so pretty, but the camera can't take the picture. I want to share this with
Right.
someone.
Yes. Right. It is. I mean, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, it's like what reminds me of, it's a muscle,
It
and
is.
you have to continue to build a muscle. So when I started off, never done it, right? I know where I want to go, but how do I get there, right? So I had to work on it and continue to build a muscle. Every month I'm building a muscle. I'm continuing to strengthen that muscle, and that's what you're doing with me, right? And so that's what it makes me like go back to, like you don't want to go to the gym, you get tired, you're like, oh, maybe not today. But then it's like I gotta keep up with that muscle. Because if I don't, I'm like, right? And so that's what it's been reminding me of, just it's constantly, you have to keep going. You have to keep having action. You constantly, what you said the other day on the call was, how committed are you?
Mm.
And what are you willing to do to get there? And who are you willing to keep or lose to get there? Like what is in your way, and what are you what are you willing to move and do to keep going up, right? And so that is just so true. It's just like, I'm committed. Like I'm 120% committed, because I have to. I'm being motivated by the money I'm spending. So for me, normally November and December are my slowest months. Okay. So it was new. It's like, I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know how it's going to show up, but I'm open to seeing what could possibly happen. And it showed up. It was normally my slowest months became my biggest months of the year.
Yeah.
Even on the busy months that I normally busy with my body contouring and things like that, they weren't this ended up the slowest, proved that it doesn't matter. It's your mindset and having knowing that I'm going to do it. And I did it. Like I actually just proved to myself, like on
Mhm.
the slowest months, they were my biggest to end the year out. And because you moved my bar to another level, I know I can do this. Now, if I'm doing this on a slow month, what is it going to look like now
We're going to find out.
on a busy month, right? So I'm very, very excited.
So you're saying like we're often driven by these exterior circumstances. Like we believe the exterior circumstance, like this, oh, it's always slow in May. Oh, it's always busiest and all, or whatever the story is. And it's
Story.
kind of like when we listen to like what people say about our physical bodies, like, about aging or about, and we just make a decision like, no, actually, my body is a materialization of my mental and emotional beliefs. I could actually change that. And they're like, oh yeah, you can't do that. Right. It's like, oh no, you'll
Right.
never have a busy month in August. All the kids are going back to school and they're spending their money on other things, not your clients. And that, guys, that's what you all have to say. Not my clients. Maybe that's true for Walmart. Maybe
Yeah.
that's true for Dillard's, but not my clients. And a big part of this is when we first started working together, I had to help her change her brand house, like who she was talking to, who her person was. There's no way she would have gotten where she is today with that other person in mind. And the embodiment of who your client is what makes the difference. And, there's a lot of judgment about money or about rich people or about people who do it. And that has to go. You cannot step into success and judge successful people. It's you breaking a universal law. It won't work.
Yeah. And you can't judge people because that's what I was doing. Oh, they're not going to be able to afford this. Like my clients that were paying this before, they're not going to come back to me because they were paying something that was like $145. Who's going to come back that saw me is going to pay $13,000 to $6,000 a package? But that's the misconception I had. They did though. They are. So it's choosing something different. And like you said, like maybe it doesn't fit for other people. Like they don't, like it's a slow month. You're not going to make that's them, but that's not me. I had to choose something like, no, I can create this. No, somebody's going to come in and they are going to purchase this, right? They're going to want to do something because it's the new year coming, right? So really choosing that I could do this was a huge thing. And then not putting judgment on what these people walking through my door, getting consultations, not me judging them and being like, they're not going to buy this. It's going to be too much. I'm going to give them this number and they're going to be like, no, it's Christmas. I can't afford that.
Predicting what's in their checkbook, in their wallet, and what they value. Very, very big mistake because you never give them the opportunity to grow with you and to witness even the value or receive the benefits. And I'll take this back to your relationship. If like with you and Graham and having someone that's supportive, that gets, even if they're in disbelief, right? That gets, and because it is hard for us to be the successful drivers and pushers. And I mean, I'm saying this speaking for myself, and my family's just like, why? Like, what is, I don't know what it is, but it's like happy when it's going. That's all I know.
Right,
is it's
right.
really good to meet my own potential, to allow God to express through me. Like, I don't know what else is possible. Like, I don't want to sit around and eat corn chips and dip. I don't want it. Like, this is the best ever. And so having someone.
Absolutely. And two, when a year ago, when I was like, not sure if I was going to hire you or not, right? Have you be my coach. It was like, the pricing and, you gave me these options and I was like, that's a lot of money. I don't, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't know what that's going to look like. Like, I don't know what's the return on that. Right. And even telling my husband, like, this is how much it costs. And I've never spent that much money on something like this or anything, right? It's an investment, right? But you don't know what that looks like, right? And I'm not going to lie, like it has been the best 110% thing I could have ever done for myself personally and for my business. And it has, like, as you know, more than 10 times itself. Like it's crazy, right? And I didn't even know what that was going to look like. I've never talked to you before. I just got a recommendation. I mean, you were like, normally people like take other things from me first before they jump in, but not you. You just jumped in. I mean, literally you were like, well, why don't you think about it and I'll call you tomorrow and then we'll go from there. And I went, next day I'm in. And you were like, wow, normally people like they got to go through a few things before they just show up to my mentorship and my coaching. And you were like,
so ready. You were so
like,
ready.
you're ready to do this. And I was like, I'm ready.
I couldn't believe you were debating between this and having someone run your social media, though. I was like, oh no, your money's way better here, and it's deductible. Get it in before the end of the year. I remember
it was the best decision I could have ever made for myself. And the best, like I came out of the gates, like maybe not like at the end of that month. I mean, it was just like, whoa, like that momentum was like
You got all your money back in the first month, and the rest of the year we just quadrupled it. Like, it was just
Oh my
fascinating.
God, it was crazy. I mean, so I highly recommend anybody who's listening, like, do yourself a favor. It is so important to have a team. And I didn't have a team. And that's what changed where I'm at now. I have somebody like Monique who helps me personally. And I have Kim, who's really taken my business and everything to this level of leveling up that I was looking for. I literally was looking for that, and I didn't know how to get there, but you helped me get here. You helped me with having the vehicle and helping with my confidence and helping with, you are the creator, Melanie. You are the one you are responsible for your numbers. You are responsible for all these things. All you need to do is you just need to believe, and you need to take action, and you need to stay open, and you need to hear what I'm telling you when I'm telling you, like, on these calls, listen to what I'm trying to coach you to do. And if you just follow it, it's gonna happen. I mean, just like with Grant, like, you can create it. Everybody is on the same playing field. We all have the opportunity to change our lives. We just have to listen to the people that are giving us the opportunity to get there. He has given me that opportunity too, just by his courses.
We have to listen to someone who's done it. And that's the biggest problem
Yeah,
we have, is we listen to
absolutely.
people who haven't done it, and we have
Yes.
too much value in, they gave up on their dreams. They didn't do it. They didn't get there. So guys, you got to be really careful about that. And because belief is a very precious commodity. And if you
Yes.
can find someone to hold that belief whenever you're dropping it, it is huge. All right, we're going to have to hop out of here. I do appreciate this. And the last
Much
thing I
for
want to
having
mention
me.
is, then for those who aren't sure about like what this is Boss Up, by the way. This is what Boss Up mentorship is. And what we do is, once we get them to the position to where they need help, is we then bring their help in. And so I am the moderator between her and her first employee. And so because it's very important that you keep the culture the same. So like you were saying, Melanie, being by yourself or having a team, it's important on who's above you, but it's also important on who's with you, because you're going to
Absolutely.
be serving all of these people and delivering. And like, you sold the product, you're going to have to go make good on the product. So having
Yes.
somebody else who is either dragging you down or lifting you up is important. And so you want your people in the culture. So if any of you have a staff and they are underperforming, they're not showing up, they have crappy attitudes, it will make a difference in your bottom dollar. It'll make a difference in your revenue. But I want to thank you for
Thanks for having
renewing,
me.
coming
Thank
in another year. I want to thank Graham for supporting you, for being there, for meeting, for trusting. And like, it's because it's so important to have someone on your side,
It
that
is.
it's a very lonely world out there when you are in success, because your relationships change, your conversations change, your spending habits change, the way you see the
Gosh, yeah.
world, the way you talk.
Yeah, and thank you for, I mean, you've changed my life. You've literally have changed my life. You're changing my business. And I can't say how, I'm just so grateful. Like, it's just, I feel so blessed to have had the opportunity to have you as my mentor and really helping me achieve my goals to succeed. And that's what it is. I mean, you've taken me places where I never thought my mind could go. Like where I thought my business could go. And so it's important to have someone like you to really to take you to boss up. Like, I'm excited to be in boss up. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful.
This is going to be so fun, because we're starting
Yeah.
off the year with the 50K minimum. Like, that's when you started freaking out, but now you're like, no, I totally can do it. Like, this was it.
Well, I'm doing it by
So fun.
myself. What is it going to look like when I bring people in, right? So I'm very excited to see what that's going to look like this new year.
All right, my
So,
friend. Thanks for
thank
coming.
you.
Let me hop out of here. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Let us know if you have any questions, and share this with a friend if you know someone who's in business who needs support.
Thanks for listening to this episode of More Than Mindset.